Welcome in. Thank you so much for joining us on the CCA California podcast. Good to be with you for another edition. Tony, how are you?
I'm cold, Chris. It dipped below 75 and I'm cold.
I noticed that. This is the first day I'm actually wearing a sweatshirt, which it's a little depressing, a little bit sad, but you know what? It's okay.
I put closed-toed shoes on for the first time in about 4 months.
Oh no, that's another level.
That's next level cold.
Oh yes, yes. Well, something that is not cold at all is our good friend Steve Oropeza from Promar Ahi USA. Welcome, Steve, to the podcast, man. How are you?
Good, man. Thanks for having me. We're excited. Today's Lobster opener.
I know, September 27th, Lobster opener. I believe it starts at 6 o'clock tonight, which I'll just start right off the bat here, man. How have you? I know you deal with a lot of lobster fishermen all the time with the nature of your business and all that. I think they made that change a couple years ago. How has it been from them, and what have you heard about that change from a 6 p.m. opener to, I think it was like 6 a.m. or even midnight at a certain point?
Yeah, the last few years have been kind of weird. I think last year it was on a Saturday, and then this year they actually gave us an additional 24 hours, so now it's on a Friday. So it's been moving in the right direction, and a lot of guys are happy about that. They're excited that they get more time to do it. They're excited. I remember one year it was like 6 a.m., like you mentioned, and that was kind of weird. People didn't know, like, do I go hooping in the morning since it's still kind of dark? And I know lobsters like to crawl in the dark, or do I just wait till the evening? So it was kind of weird, but now I think they figured it out. I think doing it on a Friday night, it's definitely drawn a lot of attention. A lot of people are really excited. They're ready to get off of work and head straight to the ramp or head straight to the dock and go lobster hooping.
Yeah, man, for sure. I mean, from my perspective, being on a boat for many, many years, it was great seeing so many people out on the water, but man, was it a pain in the butt trying to navigate not only lobster hoops, but fishermen in the bay and kayaks and
It's a
everything.
minefield. It's a total
Yeah,
minefield out there.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. So I love lobster hooping, but I also like bass fishing, saltwater bass fishing. So I know exactly what you guys are talking about. Going out there in the morning and there's gear everywhere, or even at night in the evening. Fishing the breakwall at night, and you have to deal with guys hoop nets and stuff. But it's still good. It's good for the industry. I really like seeing a bunch of stuff out there because that means people are going fishing, people are spending time on the water, and that's good for the industry. That's what we want to see.
Well point. Well put. Yeah, well put for sure. Well, Steve, let's kind of go back here. Give us a little bit about your background and how you kind of got to where you are, and just kind of tell us the Steve story, man.
Sure. So I started fishing when I was about 4 years old. My dad got me into it. We've always had boats in our family, so we'd have a little aluminum boat that we'd go and fish Castaic, Pyramid, all the local lakes at. And then when we couldn't do that, then we would maybe fish the piers, fish inside the harbor on our little boats, and then eventually that evolved into me getting my own boat when I was about 15 and doing the same thing, hooping off of a 16-foot aluminum boat in the harbor. And then that evolved into just working on boats, working with Dan Hernandez for a while, doing all of his video production, and just evolving to where I am now, to where I'm at Promar. I handle a lot of the sales, West Coast sales manager, as well as marketing, and always been super passionate about fishing. I take my daughters out fishing as much as possible, so just it's in my blood. I have the sickness like a lot of us do, and I can't seem to shake it, and I don't want to shake it.
Yeah, yeah. Something that I learned about you, I'd say probably a handful of years ago and all that, that you actually have a film background. That's kind of what you went to school for, right?
Yeah, yeah. So growing up, I grew up watching. I grew up riding bikes and dirt bikes and stuff, and anyone who rid dirt bikes in the 90s, they knew how big some of these like there was these videos called Crusty Demons, and it was basically like a bunch of friends going out in the desert, and jumping and doing all kinds of freestyle tricks and stuff like that. And it was like handheld camcorders, but at the time it was like cutting edge, like seeing average Joes being able to put out these videos. So that's how I got introduced to video is doing stuff on skateboards, on bikes, and then that I got a lot of interest in making my own videos and getting with my buddies and making videos of our trips out to the desert, riding dirt bikes and all that. And that evolved into me going to film school. So I went to film school in Los Angeles, and then even through all of that, I'd always want to be on the water. I'd be fishing on the weekends with my dad. If I wasn't in school, I'd be fishing during the summer. We'd go to Catalina and stay, camp out on the island and just wake up early in the morning and surf fish the island. So always fishing. And I got into the film industry for a little bit. I was working as a set dresser and then doing post production for a while. And then someone mentioned, hey, Dan Hernandez is looking for an editor. And so I thought that was a great opportunity for me because I was so passionate about fishing. I felt, oh, I can two birds, one stone, with this, if I'm able to land this. So fortunately, it all worked out, and I started working for Dan, and I was getting paid to do video work and fish at the same time, and I thought I was in heaven. So I did that for a long time, and then slowly got introduced to the fishing industry and kind of saw how things worked with retailers and manufacturers and just the marketing side of it. And when I was working with Dan, it was really the early stages of like YouTube and YouTube marketing. A lot of companies hadn't really jumped on how valuable videos were to selling product yet. It was like the early 2000s or mid 2000s, like 2006, 2007, 8, around then. It was still pretty early. So I was able to capitalize on that. I basically pitched myself to Ben here at Promar and kind of showed him the different things that I could offer in marketing with video and all of that. And so I jumped into this company and been with them ever since. But I started as a marketing specialist, and then I kind of evolved. Given my background, I've also fished Baja a lot, and at the time, Ben was looking for someone who could help with international sales in Spanish-speaking countries. So I helped him out with that, and it was so easy because I mean, Chris, Tony, you guys know it's not hard to sell fishing products when you're really passionate about fishing and you do it. It's like you're just talking to buddies about what stuff works, what doesn't, and when someone's can tell that you're genuine and you're being honest about something that you're trying to push, then you're not really selling, you're just kind of chatting. And because of that, I've been able to develop into where I am now as the national sales manager for West Coast and Canada, and involved in the marketing as well.
It's the easiest sell ever. Just something that you're
Exactly.
super passionate about.
Yeah.
It's super simple. That's cool, man. That's awesome. So if you're familiar with Baja, does that mean you speak Spanish?
I do. So a lot of people
Really?
when they
I
see
didn't
me,
know
yeah, when
that.
they see me, they don't think I'm Mexican, but I am Mexican. It's funny. So yeah, my parents are actually from Mexico, and but I was born and raised here, and that's kind of what my dad grew up fishing in Baja and stuff, and so that's kind of how I got introduced to all of this, and it's fun, and it's actually I'm very fortunate to be able to speak both languages because going down there and being able to kind of navigate your way down there to hit the honey holes fishing spots and being able to talk to locals, it's definitely paid off.
Okay, so since we opened up this can of worms, going down to Baja, what is your favorite spot to fish down there?
Okay, my favorite spot by far. I've been to a few different areas. So I've fished Ensenada. I've fished all the way down to Cabo, Cedros Island, San Felipe. My favorite spot is the East Cape. Um,
Mm.
I got introduced to the East Cape, I want to say 10 years ago, 15 years ago. And there is nothing like it. The people there are just so nice. It's not like Cabo or like Ensenada where there's a bunch of craziness. Like you get the tourists and you get all this other chaos there. East Cape is like very chill. You get on the beach and there could be nobody on the beach. You literally have the whole beach to yourself. The water's always warm and calm because it's the Sea of Cortez, so it's protected for the most part. It's just beautiful down there. There's nowhere else in the world like it. I love the East Cape.
Wow. Have you done much fishing in like a little bit north of there, like Bay of LA and the Midriff Islands?
I've been to Bay of LA once. We fished it just a day driving down, but I wouldn't say I fished it proper because it was kind of a short trip when we did go.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely one of the places that I want to hit. I actually want to try and drive my boat down there, tow it down there, and then fish Gonzaga and then Bay of LA. Um, I know a lot of guys talk about doing it, and I've talked to a lot of guys that do it, like Jerry Mayhew, I know does it, I think, every year. So it's definitely something that I want to do, and it'd be awesome to take my boat down there and get, those golden groupers, the big groupers down there, and then the yellowtail and dorado fishing. That's definitely something that I want to do, but I haven't been able to do it just yet the way I want to do
Well, if you need someone to go with you, let us know. You have two people sitting here that would absolutely love it, for sure.
Absolutely. I'll definitely let you guys know.
Hell yeah, we can do it in the name of research. How about that? um,
Yeah, let's do it.
awesome, man. Well, that's very cool. Let's kind of get into the meat and potatoes of kind of what we're here to talk about, which is lobster. Well, you just mentioned lobster openers tonight. It's happening at 6 p.m. and all that. But really, Promar and Ahi really have so many different exciting things going on for this year, especially. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so first off, we are having our Ambush the Season photo contest, which is something that we've had for, I think, 5 years now. Every year we offer some type of contest to anyone that's going out hooping with our products. This is totally free. You don't have to pay to get into it or anything like that. The only thing that we do ask is that when you're out there and you're hooping, that you use our products. And that's the only requirement to the contest. And the way that it works is that you just have to snap a picture. The picture has to include one of our ambush hoop nets. So we offer 4 different models. So if you're using any one of those 4 Promar ambush hoop nets in the photo, make sure you capture that hoop net in there with a legal lobster in the hoop net. Make sure to include yourself in there. You don't have to, but hey, if you're putting a post on Instagram, why not have you in it? Especially if you win, we're gonna blow it up, and all your friends will see your photo there with some lobster and see that you're the winner of the month. But the way that it's going to work is every person that's using an ambush hoop net has a chance to win. There's no limit to how many entries you can put in. Each entry, like I said, you'll have to include that ambush hoop net in there, a legal lobster, and then you'll have to hashtag Promar24 in the photo. Hashtag that, and then for an additional entry, hashtag your favorite local retailer, the shop that you buy all your stuff from. Show them some appreciation and hashtag them, and that'll get you an additional entry. Every month of the season, we'll be announcing a winner, and each winner will be taking home $500 worth of Promar and Ahi product. And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's really simple. It's free. There's no reason why anyone wouldn't want to do it. I mean, taking home $500 worth of gear, and you get to decide what type of gear you want to take, guys. It's not like, I know a lot of guys already have a full set of hoop nets and don't really need hoop nets or whatever. We have a long line of products that we offer at Promar and Ahi, so those $500 could make for some nice tackle for the next season.
I was just about to say, because I mean, $500. I mean, you can get a set of 8. I just looked on your website. You can get a set of 8 for about $600. So you can almost cash in really big and get a whole brand new set if you wanted to.
Yeah, not only that, but I mean, if you want to gear up for the rockfish season next year, load up on jigs, load up on fluorocarbon, GT4 fluorocarbon, or if you want to get ready for the tuna season next year, load up on cedar plugs and gaps and everything else. I mean, we're not limiting this to any specific items. Obviously, this is designed to promote our ambush hoop nets, but we have a huge line and we want to make sure that everybody is able to use every product that we have. So this is just an incentive to keep using the Promar gear when you're out there hooping.
Nice, that's awesome, man. Well, you kind of brought it up, but we kind of we partnered up a little bit together on earlier this year with the Bay Bass Classic down here in San Diego earlier this year, and you and Promar and Ahi were super generous, and you started giving out spools of the fluorocarbon. So thank you for that. But
Yeah,
ultimately,
absolutely.
how's the fluoro business been? Is I mean, you guys must be pretty stoked at how well that's taken with the market.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? We knew that it was going to be an uphill battle just because of how competitive this category is. There's a lot of, when you go into your local tackle shops, there is a ton of different fluorocarbons in there that you can purchase. And so we knew that it was going to be an uphill battle, but we felt that we had a good product, and we could make a difference in the people's success when they're using it. So all in all, it's been received really, really well. We're offering something that's a little bit different from everyone else. We're giving you 35 yards of line versus the standard 25 that most other brands offer, for the same value as the 25 yards that most other brands are offering. So not only that, but I think the characteristics of our line is it's really good. Abrasion resistance, the superior knot strength on these things. We have a lot of our pro staff guys like Justin Betrell who have caught. I think last season he caught, I want to say, over 100 tuna that were from 80 to 200 pounds on it. And he just raves about it. And he actually helped us develop it and then also develop our wind-ons. We have guys on the East Coast that are part of the National Redfish Series, that have won Team of the Year fishing this stuff. I mean, it's just doing
Oh,
really
that's
well for us.
awesome.
Yeah, we can't say enough good things about it. We're totally stoked on it. And I mentioned the wind on. That's another thing that we're really happy with. Guys are using them to troll the Mad Mac. If you want to quickly swap out leader sizes, or if you just don't want to, some of us are fishing really heavy line when we're doing the kite, and it's hard for them to splice that 400 pound, 300 pound, 200 pound mono to the Spectra or to whatever your mono leader or Spectra. So a wind on leader makes total sense. So a lot of guys are using our wind ons for that, and we're having really good reviews on that as well. So we're really happy with it. It's a good product that's coming along well for us.
Was this the first year you guys had the fluoro, or did you have fluoro, in production the last couple years, but it really took off this year?
So this is the first year we launched it at ICAST this past year. Um, so this is let me roll back a little bit. This is the first official year that you're
Mm.
able to purchase it. We've been working on this for about 3 years now. It started with like initial samples that we developed, and then we just been refining it for the last 3 years to get it to
Mm.
a place where we've been happy with it. So in reality, we've been struggling with it for 3 years, just getting it to the place where we approve it. And this year is the first year where we launched it, and it's available to the market.
Yeah, that's awesome. Stoked for you guys. I mean, the fishing industry, as I've come to realize, is constantly changing, constantly adapting. You've got all these companies trying to outcompete each other and whose product is better and all that. And to even go into production, you never know how the fishery is going to be when you start production 3 years from when you launch, or when you're trying to
Exactly.
think of what products you want or what diameter of fluoro you want. So it's amazing to think, like, 3 years ago, we didn't know if the bluefin were going to stick around. We knew that they were here.
We still don't know.
We still don't know.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
But
Every year is a
yeah,
gamble.
right, right. So I'm super stoked for you guys.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, we're happy. We're stoked. We're stoked with the performance. We're stoked with how it was received. The tackle shops, it seems to be moving No, it's been really good for us. We're happy with it.
That's awesome, man. Well, going back to lobster season, being opening up tonight once again, a big problem that has, I guess, is faced not only with lobster fishermen but also just with fishermen in general, especially here in Southern California, are sea lions, and we
Yeah.
really have. We can go into a whole podcast and don't even ask Dave Hansen about his opinion on sea lions, but anyway, it seems like you guys have a really new, exciting product to try and combat that issue.
Yeah, so as I mean, most people that lobster hoop are aware of, we have our seal-proof bait cages, the white PVC ones, and those have been great for avoiding the sea lions a little bit. I mean, they still attract them, but then the sea lions tend to just get frustrated and then end up leaving for the most part, and that's kind of what the whole purpose of them are. Um, and what we found is, the sea lions are smart. They've gotten used to seeing those bright white seal-proof bait cages coming down in the hoop nets, and they know that there's food in there. So this year, what we've decided to do is develop something that's a little bit different, improved on that design, the original design, by making them a camouflage dark blue. So they're no longer white. We still offer the white ones, but the new and improved versions, I call them the heavy duty versions, are going to be a dark blue. They're going to match our ambush hoop nets. They're going to come with upgraded clips. And I don't know about you guys, but for me personally, that's always been kind of frustrating for me, especially if you're using the bigger hoop nets, the heavier hoop nets. The 32 and the original 36 it's not an issue, but for the heavies and the extra heavies, those rings are a lot thicker, so it's harder to get that clip on there. And so that's something that we considered when we were designing this one. The new clips on these are a lot bigger. So if you're wearing gloves, or if you're using the heavier hoop nets, that clip is going to snap into that ring a lot easier. That's something that I found myself getting frustrated with when I was out last season. Is I would constantly find myself taking off my gloves and putting them back on just to snap these things on and off of my hoop nets, and I got tired of that. So having these bigger clips is going to eliminate that frustration for me. It's going to make it really easy for me to keep my gloves on, snap it into place when I need to snap it into place, or take it out when I need to take it out. And yeah, this what we're trying to do is just make it easier for everyone to go hooping. And I think by offering this upgraded seal-proof bait cage, that's definitely going to make your life a little bit easier when you're out there and you're putting bait in your hoop nets.
I am the exact same way, Steve, when it comes to just fishing in general, where if I'm wearing gloves, I want to wear them and not have to, the reason why I'm wearing gloves is so I don't have to get my hands dirty or wet or whatever. And I don't want to keep
Yeah.
putting them on and off and on and off just because of a clip. So that's really exciting.
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, especially when you're cutting up bait, typically we're cutting up bait all night and you got bait all over your hands, you got bait on your gloves, and you're wearing like you said, you're wearing the gloves so that you don't go home to your wife and your hands smell like fish, right? So you don't want to have to take your gloves off and potentially have an upset wife at the end of the night. And these clips are going to help you not have that. So definitely recommend them.
Nice, Steve. You're solving so many different problems on so many different levels. I like it. I like it. Tony, have you lobster fished before?
No, I've free dived. I have been in the water. I've manually been in the water. I've free.
It's a good one.
I make myself laugh. I have free dived, I guess, for lobster before, but this was like a handful of years ago. It was very tough. It was very tough. I mean, granted, I didn't really know what I was doing. If I were to do it now, I think I'd be a little bit in a better position. But I have never hoop netted. I've always wanted to go.
Same with
We got to
me.
get you out there.
Same with me. I've never actually hoop netted either.
Oh my God, dude! You guys got to jump on my boat.
I
We got to set up a date this season.
I would love to experience it.
I was just about to ask Steve, are you going to be out there tonight for the opener?
I unfortunately will not. I don't know if you guys can tell, but I do have a cold that I'm battling right now. And I have two little ones at home that are on the same boat as I am. So unfortunately, this will be the first year, I think, in 3 years that I'm going to be missing the opener. Yeah, I mean things change when you got little ones at home, man. If I didn't have those little ones at home, I don't care how sick I'd be, I'd be out there.
Yeah,
But I can't step away tonight, unfortunately. But I will be out there probably sometime during the week next week.
family man, I like it. Yeah, man, it's gonna be really exciting tonight on so many different levels for so many different people for in so many different bays too, which is typically where a lot of the at least on the rec side, a lot of recreational anglers would actually be hoop net. So bays, jetties. Have you heard of anything else, Steve, in terms of spots and where they go bugging?
Yeah, so the bays, the harbors, that's all really good spots. And one thing to consider, well, one thing to remember is the commercial guys are jealous of us when it comes to being able to fish the harbors and bays because they're not allowed in there. So we really have a big advantage. Think about how much structure. I mean, these lobster, you always want to look for structure. That's where you're going to find the lobster. And just think about how much structure there is inside these harbors and bays. Um, whether it's up here in Long Beach and San Pedro or Dana Point or down in San Diego, Mission Bay. Um, there's so many areas, like you said, jetties, piers, pilings, just random rock walls and break walls. Um, all of that is really optimal location to put your hoop nets next to when you're hooping. Outside of that, I mean, if you guys are, I think we're about 4 or 5 days. We have a 4 or 5 day advantage to the commercial guys. So we can actually fish some of the spots that are outside of the harbor that normally would be dominated by the commercial guys within the first 4 or 5 days of the season. So definitely go out there and try it before the commercial guys get out there because there could be some good lobster out there. And what I mean by that is going out and finding those rock piles where you would normally probably fish bass on outside of the harbor. Those are going to be really good for lobsters as well. So that's also something to remember is like if you can catch bass on it during the off season of the off lobster season, there's a good chance that during the lobster season you'll be able to catch lobsters on it because for the most part they're very similar in the characteristics that they look at for a home. So that structure. So definitely take a look inside the harbors, have a game plan, and then outside of the harbors, the number one thing that you want to make sure that you are dropping hoop nets on is structure. Make sure that there's rocks and rubble down under on the ocean floor, and you'll have a better chance at landing some lobsters versus just dropping it on sand.
So this might be controversial, but does bait choice matter?
Absolutely. I think it does. There's a few different things that you can do. There's guys that go out and buy like salmon heads, and they totally believe that's the best bait for them. I'm a strong believer in fresh bait. So I mean, I'm 90% of my fishing is calico fishing, yellowtail fishing, and then when it comes time to picking that bait, you want to get the fresh bait because that's what is going to catch that trophy fish, right? Lobsters are the same way, in my opinion. They don't want something that's been dead for months, and sitting in a fish market for days and all that. Like they want fresh bait. So if you can make your bait in the morning, or if you're fortunate enough to be near a bait receiver to where you can just go and buy bait, I definitely recommend using fresh bait. Going to Nacho, going to the bait barge in Dana, going to the bait barge in San Diego or in San Pedro, and getting bait during the day, getting it ready, chopping it up, filling your seal-proof bait cages, and using the freshest bait. One thing that Dave Hansen has taught at most of his seminars or all of his seminars when it comes to lobster hooping is that in his experience in working with the Aquarium of the Pacific, the lobster specialists there have told them like the antenna on those lobsters, they do pick up the electro electro whatever when fish is decaying, and that usually happens within a short amount of time after a fish has been, after a fish dies. So when you're using fresh bait and you chop it up and it was alive an hour before it's going in the water, that's going to give off a lot of those electrostatic uh, patterns or whatever that lobster keys in on with those antenna. That's going to draw them in. Not only is the bait, the oil, and the blood, like all the stuff that dissipates off that bait container when you're putting it in the water. Not only is that going to attract them, but that electrostatic give off is also going to attract them as well. So, and I believe that I've used everything. I've used the salmon heads. I've used stuff that's been sitting in my freezer for a year from last season. I've used fresh. I've used scents. And to be honest, the only thing that I make sure to use now is fresh. I
Hmm.
don't. I don't even save stuff from previous seasons specifically for lobster hooping. I prefer just going and getting fresh bait, chopping it up that same night, putting it in my bait containers, and then fishing it. That's always been the most productive for me when it comes to lobster hooping.
You think that's like because of like the oils and the scent and all that stuff? It just kind of gives off a better scent,
Fresher.
fresher. Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, you go to In and Out, and is the burger better when you get it right then and there, or when after your 30-minute drive home?
Good point.
I feel it's like that. I mean, I don't know. I personally think that and you got to think too, like these lobsters, when something happens to, like, let's say a shark is in the area and it gets a hold of a mackerel or something, and there's pieces of mackerel that flutter down to the bottom of the ocean floor, that they're going to eat it right away. It's not going to sit there for a couple of days decaying and then they're going to stumble upon it. It's going to get eaten right away. So they're used to eating fresh dead stuff. So you want to match the hatch and provide
Yeah.
them fresh dead stuff, not something that's been sitting in your freezer or in a seafood store for days and days and days.
I mean, do you think it's a misconception too at the same time? You know, you think of all the critters and the species, halibut, anything that lives on the sea floor, whether it's in 10 feet of water in a rocky intertidal system or you're in 300 feet of water fishing for halibut. Do you think people think because these organisms live on the seafloor that they're automatically detritivores or automatically going to eat all the leftovers when that may not be the case? They want the freshest thing alive too.
Absolutely, I do, and I think the biggest part of that is what we call them. We call them bugs, right? And what do bugs eat? Like ants. They eat this leftovers, the stuff that's been sitting on the sidewalk for a few days. So I absolutely do think that it's a misconception, but based on my experiences, fresh is always the best. I mean, I and if you ask a lot of the guys that have been doing this for a long time, I think they would all agree.
Mm.
Um, uh, you will you I'm not going to say you won't be successful with stuff that's been sitting around for a while, but if you're already spending all that time and money to get out there, you might as well just invest a little bit more and get fresh bait, something
Mm.
that you know is going to work versus something that you're hoping works. And like I said, I'm not going to say it doesn't work because people absolutely do catch bugs on all of the above. But for me personally, I've tried all of the above, and I can tell you wholeheartedly that fresh dead has always produced significantly more for
Mm.
me than frozen stuff.
When I mean, you deal with a lot of different customers and all that stuff. What's the weirdest thing that you've heard about someone using type of bait?
Well, we get a lot of people that come from out of town that do it. They come and visit family, and the family takes them out on their personal. It doesn't necessarily have to be a fishing boat, but it's their ski boat or whatever, and they just want to do it. Something to do with the family. And so they come from places where they go crawdad fishing and or blue crab fishing or whatever, and they try to use the same kind of techniques or baits to attract lobsters. Some of the things that I've heard put into into lobster bait cages are like chicken bones and cat food and all hot dogs and all this crazy stuff. And
Tomatoes,
then
I've heard
yeah, just
tomatoes.
crazy stuff. So that's probably the weirdest thing in regards to like bait.
Huh.
Um, in regards to like just technique, I've seen a bunch of weird stuff out there. Guys that are putting like steel mesh on their hoop nets, which is totally illegal, and you can't do that. You can't alter the way that the hoop nets are.
Hmm.
Guys that put like these things on the hoop nets to try and make it so that it's harder for the lobsters to get out. You can't do it. It's just, I mean, it's fishing, right? So everybody thinks that they're gonna stumble on the next great technique or the next great way to be successful. And in reality, you know, there's a reason why have been the way that they have been for so long because at the end of the day, it's what works. So we've seen a lot of weird stuff, but for the most part, it's not super weird.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, that's good to know. That's really good to know. I had heard the chicken bone thing. I had never heard of tomatoes. That's interesting. That's new. But that's awesome. And the beauty about Promar is you sell gear to not only the basically the guys that do it every single year and all that, but you make it super easy to where you also sell kits too for the beginners like Tony and I, to where if we wanted to go hooping tonight just randomly, we can pick up a kit and be all set up completely, thanks to Promar.
Yeah, I mean, we've really developed the whole lobster fishing accessory and just lobster hoop nets. We've developed that business quite a bit. We started off with our lay flats, which I don't know if you guys are even aware, but the very first lobster net, hoop net that we did was just a lay flat net, which now is commonly used to land fish off of piers. But back in the day, that was the only option you
Hmm.
had if you wanted to go hooping for lobster. And then that slowly evolved to what we have now, our ambush hoop nets. Um, and then the long line of accessories that we offer: the gloves, the floats, the rope, literally every piece of tool or every piece of equipment that you would need to be successful in lobster hooping, we offer it. And not only do we offer all the gear that you need, we've built out a really good library of resource videos, blogs, just all the how tos that people have questions about. We've built it all out on our website. We've built out a lobster hooping resource page on our website where you can go in and we work with our pro staff, guys like Justin Matrell, Will Burdo, Pablo Fernandez down in San Diego, guys that are running lobster hooping trips throughout the season for charters. And they're out there all the time, every day of the season. So we're working with these guys to share their information, all the mistakes that they've made over the years. They share all that information to the consumer, to all of our customers in these videos. So we've tried to make it as easy as possible for someone who has no clue what they're doing to become an expert in just a couple of days, really. I mean, after watching the videos, watching all the resource, looking at all the resources that we have, and going out and kind of just dialing it in on your own, you can be a successful lobster hooper with everything that we offer. And that's what our whole goal has been over the last few years, is really not only offering all the products, but offering all the resources to give the consumer the information that they need to be able to be successful with those products. And I think we're there now.
Yeah, I mean, having the tools readily available is so beneficial. I mean, Chris, you and I can be pros in just a matter of days. Just think about it.
Let's do it.
I'm serious. I think we
Yeah,
should.
I love lobster.
Who doesn't?
Yeah. Speaking of tools, though, there are, I mean, the two things come to mind in terms of what you absolutely must have and to make yourself legal are you have to have a gauge in California and you also have to have your report card. Are we missing anything or is that pretty much basically step one, step two before even going out on your boat to go hooping.
So legally, yeah, correct. Those are the legal requirements. You do have to have a lobster report card if you're participating in lobster hooping or taking any harvesting of lobster. And then you also need a lobster gauge. With that lobster report card, if you are hooping from a pier, although piers you do not need a fishing license, you will need a lobster report card. So no matter what, it doesn't matter if you're a minor, like minors in California under 16, you don't need a fishing license. But if they're participating in hooping, they do need a lobster card. So it doesn't matter who you are, you will need a lobster card if you're harvesting lobster in the state of California. And then in regards to the gauge, everyone on the boat or anyone who's partaking in harvesting lobster needs to have a gauge on their person. So one thing that I like to do when I go out, when I take my buddies out on my boat or we're going out hooping is I like to put all my gauges on lanyards and I like to have everyone wearing one around their neck when we're hooping. That way, when Fish and Wildlife approaches us and they ask if they can board and they want to make sure that everybody has their cards, I hand them all the cards, and then they can easily see that everybody's got gauges on them around their neck, and I think it makes their life a lot easier. And when you're making the warden's life and the officer's life a lot easier, tends things tend to go a lot smoother and a lot quicker, and you get to get back to your hooping faster than if you have to go look for gauges, look for your cards, look for stuff. So yeah, the in regards to the legal requirements, everyone needs a lobster gauge and everyone needs a lobster card. And make sure to have extra gauges on your boat because those things do tend to go overboard when people get excited as those lobsters start getting on the boat.
So every person who's actively participating in fishing or hooping for lobster has to have a gauge. It's not like if you're all on one boat, the boat has one. Everyone needs to have their own individual one.
Right. Yeah. So I think the actual verbiage is I can't don't quote me on this, but I think it's like they have to be able to reach it. Like it has to be very close to you.
Within
But
reach.
I like to just simplify that and either have it in my pocket or have it around my neck. And the easiest thing for me is just put it on a lanyard and have it around everybody's necks. And then not only is it visible to the warden, but it's right there. So as stuff comes overboard, you can just grab it and then check your lobsters. You don't have to think about where it's at or misplace it or anything like that. It just makes it easier. And another thing to note is if you're on a private boat and let's say it's Chris, you, your wife, and your son, you guys are all going out lobster hooping, and your wife decides she doesn't want to hoop net, but you and your son are. Well, just because she decides she doesn't want to hoop net and just hang out and watch you guys, that doesn't mean that she doesn't need a lobster card. Technically, if a vessel is participating in harvesting lobster, everyone needs a lobster card on that vessel. So even though she could be running the boat, not necessarily pulling the hoops up, she still needs a lobster hooping report card.
That's a good point. That's a good point.
And it's
With
the same way with fishing, right? Like
yeah,
whenever you're fishing, if two out of the three guys on the boat are fishing, well, Fish and Wildlife is going to require that everybody on the boat has their fishing license.
yeah, yeah. That totally makes sense. And really, the resources there, the gauges and the lobster report card and all that. It's better to be safe than sorry. I mean, on an opener like tonight, I mean, you can only imagine the wardens are basically just kind of the this is like their opening day in a way to where there's going to be some bad apple that wants to do it illegally and they're out to basically go after those guys and you don't want to be
Yeah,
involved in any way shape or form in that.
absolutely. And always, I mean, there's no reason to be completely cordial. There's no reason to not be completely cordial with these wardens that are out there. At the end of the day, guys, I mean, we're out there, we're doing it the right way, and they're just trying to prevent the guys that are messing it up for us. from doing it. And that ultimately we should be thankful for that. I mean, these guys are out there busting their butts. It's cold. They're missing their families. I'm sure they want to be in their warm beds, but they're out there dealing with guys that are not doing the right thing. So if you're out there and make sure that you're doing the right thing, make it super easy, keep stuff organized on your boat, have all your lobster cards together, have your gauges visible or on you. Just make it as easy as possible. Put all your lobsters in one place so that the wardens don't have to go searching for your catch. If you put them all in your live well or all in a cooler, that makes it a lot easier for them. They don't have to jump around, and they don't have to like. I found personally that whenever I have my boat completely organized, all my hoop nets are stacked on my bow, my ropes are on next to them, all the lobsters are in my live well. Um, they jump on the boat, they see that everything's organized. They don't have to worry about tripping over stuff.
Mm.
Things tend to go really quick. They jump on, they look, oh, all the lobsters are here. They don't start, for the most part, they don't try searching for a hidden lobster because they know that we're not those people. We're following the law. I handed them all my lobster report cards. They see that all of us have our gauges around our necks. Everything's organized. Nothing looks shady. There's no trash on the deck. They're on and off within minutes. So I highly recommend that you guys try to practice the same habits. It'll make your life a lot easier out there.
And they remember your boats.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely.
They
If you're going to be doing
remember.
this for a season, they'll remember you. They won't even bother you. They'll be, oh yeah, that's Steve. He's always really organized. He's on top of it. We don't have to bother him.
Yeah, I mean it's so important to really work with these guys because really you're exactly right. They're out to bust the guys that aren't doing it properly and ruining it for the rest of us. And really and having everything organized, being friendly, being cordial, back with them and all that, offer them a water or a soda saying, "Hey, just to make life easier." And it almost like takes them just and this is just human nature. It takes them off the defensive to where they're
Yeah,
going into
absolutely.
a friendly situation, a legal situation, and really, you're right. It just happens within minutes. You're all good to go. Have a nice day, and we'll see you next year. Basically,
Yep, exactly.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm looking at some of the numbers on the CDFW website. And it's shocking to me that looking from the lobster report cards turned in, or the cards sold and the number of cards turned in, what basically the report rate is from 2014 to so 2024. So that would be all the cards turned in at the end of April of this year. And we're looking at an average of 48 to 52% of report cards turned in. So this past season, out of just over 35,000 report cards that were sold, only 17,000 were turned in.
Have to
Less
get
than
better.
50% report rate.
Have to get better.
And I think, I don't know, for the most part, I think a lot of that has to do with people think that if they don't catch anything or if they don't end up going, they don't have to report. I think that's what most of that is. And that's not the case. You still have to report at the end of the year in April. You can do it by mailing it in or online. They make it super easy for you now. But even if you don't go all season, you just zero it out. Or I think there's even a drop down option when you're filling it out that says I didn't actually go or
Mm,
something similar to that. Um, and that'll save you $20 next year when you try to
yeah,
go buy another lobster report card. Because if you don't submit it
They'll
that
find you.
year, they'll fine you $20 on the following year's lobster report card. So rather than paying, I can't remember what it is now. I think it's like 12 or $15 for your lobster card. You're going to end up paying 32 or $35 for a lobster card.
right.
Yeah.
Huh.
So
Not to
just make
mention,
sure.
yeah,
Go ahead.
not to mention the data that's missing from it too. Like the data
Right.
alone, they need to know that as well.
Yeah, and that's actually, considering how they gather that data and what they use that data for, it's probably better that you guys report when you don't go, just so that Fish and Wildlife has the correct data and has as much data as possible because they're they struggle to get some of this data, and that data is how they tell it, how they decide how many lobsters we're going to be able to keep in the future. And if you're not providing them with that data, well, stuff could change in the negative for us down the line. So just make sure that if you guys are going out, and or if you're even just purchasing a lobster report card, you're remembering to submit that report at the end of the season.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have a couple more for you, Steve, before we let you go. But we've talked a lot about hooping from a boat, from a private boat. It is possible to do it from a sport boat as well. I think some sport boats offer those kinds of trips this time of year. But also, some people do it from a kayak, believe it or not.
What?
Yeah, yeah. But I
Yeah.
think, I mean, you're obviously limited with space and all that. But I mean, I'm guessing you probably have sets available for the kayakers as well.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, for our lobster season photo contest, you do have to include any one of the four options that we offer in the ambush hoop nets. And so I'll kind of go through those ambush hoop nets now. The original, the 32-inch hoop net, is really what we recommend to the kayak guys because they're a little bit smaller in footprint. They fit perfectly on the back of a Hobie Pro Angler. So they're really the optimal size for kayak fishing. And then from that, you go up to the 36-inch hoop net. And both of these are around the 5.5 to 6 pound weight. The only difference really is that the 36 is bigger in diameter on that bottom ring versus the 32. And then from there, and the 36 is typically what we recommend to someone who's on a small boat, who doesn't necessarily go too far or fish deep water where they'll need the additional weight, but they still want the bigger footprint of a 36-inch hoop net. And then from there, we go up to the XLH, which is our heavy model. That weighs about 13 pounds. And that's what guys are typically using when they're fishing anywhere from 100 to maybe 200 feet of water, or fishing the front side of cat. If you guys have ever, for those of you who've hooped net cat, you know how strong that current can get on some nights. And if you're not using a heavy hoop net, that hoop net will start walking and you might lose your gear. So using the heavy hoop nets that we offer, the XLH, that's going to be the way to go for that. And then we have our HD, which is our heavy hitter. That thing comes in at 23 pounds. For the H and the HD, I would definitely recommend that you guys have a electric puller on the boat. The original 32 and the 36, you don't necessarily need it because it's not too heavy, but the heavy ones, the H and the HD, you will need an electric puller. You don't want to have to do 3 sets of 10 hoop nets in a night, pulling up those 13 and 23-pound hoop nets. Your arms are going to be dead, and you might get too tired to even finish the night off. You'll end up leaving your hoop nets out there. So you definitely want to have an electric puller when you're out there. But going back to your original question, in regards to kayak fishing, yeah, our 32-inch ambush hoop net, that's the way to go when you're on a kayak or on a really small boat. Our pro staffer, Gil Hernandez, who's on the Hobie team, he's been our guy in regards to kayak lobster hooping for years and years. And we have a ton of resources on our website, like I mentioned earlier, where he breaks it all down for the kayak guys. He tells you exactly which hoop net to get with which accessories, and then also what other accessories that we don't necessarily make, but that are important for lobster hooping from a kayak. He goes through what other accessories you'll need for lobster hooping from a kayak. So we cover it all, guys. We have everything and every piece of resource that you'll need, whether it's a kayak, pier fishing, or if you're doing it from a private boat.
Man, all this is getting me excited, man. When are we going to go hooping?
Whenever you guys want, man. Openers tonight.
When Steve gets better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. When I get better, then I'll go.
Very cool, man. And I'm guessing, I mean, you have a whole library on your website on how to properly rig, I'm sure probably how to fill out a lobster report card and everything in between too.
Exactly. Everything. I mean, anything you can think of. And And if you don't find what you're looking for on there, feel free to give us a call. All of our guys in our office, they all hoop net. We all know, we're all very familiar with different areas in regards to hoop netting. So if you need a little bit of input on kind of optimal places to try or rigging or whatever in regards to hoop netting, give us a call and we'll be happy to help answer any questions you guys have.
I have another question, Steve. What kind of gloves are ideal? Because when you're handling lobster, they're not the smoothest of creatures. So what would be the best type of glove to use? Like a black orange rubber glove, the kind that are waterproof, I guess, water resistant, or you can like
So
put your
yeah,
hand in and it's like waterproof
Yeah.
for the most part.
yeah. We have a few different options when it comes to gloves. So, what I always recommend, what I prefer, we have a glove called the latex grip glove, and essentially what it is, it's almost like what divers wear. It's
Mm-hmm.
like a, I don't know, it's not quite neoprene, but it's like spandex basically that goes on your hand, and it has a latex grip. And so what that latex grip does is it prevents from those lobsters. They're called spiny lobsters for a reason. So it prevents from those spines on the lobsters hurting your hands, basically. So I personally like the latex grip gloves because you still have good dexterity. They're not very thick,
Mm-hmm.
so you can still grab the rope, grab the lobster, grab different things on the boat, and you still have really good feel on stuff because of that dexterity is really good on them. We also have some insulated gloves, which um, a lot of people prefer them because it is cold out. You do get wet, your hands get cold, and our insulated gloves will keep your hands really warm. They're insulated with fleece, so that, like I said, they're really warm. They're waterproof. You don't have to worry about your hands getting all wet. But the downside to those is you lose dexterity. I don't like using them to pull rope with them because you lose that feel. But if you're just spectating or if you're in between pulling and you want to keep your hands warm, definitely recommend having those on the boat. Those two are probably the best options when it comes to lobster hooping. A lot of guys use like the fillet gloves, like the orange ones with
Mm-hmm.
the rubber striping on it, similar to what you see like the guys on the boats filleting the fish with those orange gloves.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recommend those because those do absorb a lot of water, and and it's just they're uncomfortable at the end of the night because they're heavy because they absorbed all the water. They don't hold up against the spines of the lobster very well, so the spines, the bigger spines will go through them and could hurt your hands. So don't recommend those. Um, and then yeah, I would just say that the two that I mentioned before, those are typically what people are using for lobster hooping, and the latex grip gloves. That's what I definitely recommend for everybody.
That's awesome,
Perfect.
man. That's
I need to
cool.
go shopping, Chris.
I know. I'm on the website right now. Well, awesome, Steve. That this has been great, man. It's been great chatting with you. One more time, how do we get a hold of you? How do we get our hands on Promar and Ahi merch and products and all that good stuff?
So you guys can visit our website, promarahi.com. Like I said earlier, we got tons of resources for you guys. You can check out all the products on there. In regards to purchasing the products, all of the local retail stores in Southern California have lobster gear, from San Diego all the way up north to Channel Islands. They're stocked up on all the lobster gear for the season, so you can stop by any tackle store and get the gear there. Resources on our website. We have YouTube channels, Promar Ahi, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff, Promar Ahi. And for me, you can find me on Instagram, Steve Oropeza. I'll be happy to help you guys with any questions you have. You can give us a call here at 310-515-8881 in the office, and one of our staff members will be happy to help you guys get dialed in for the lobster seasons if you guys can't find the answers you're looking for on our resources page.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for being here. And one more thing, you guys came out with descending devices too. Also very important to have on your boat too.
Yeah, that was something that we saw that come in, and I actually worked with you on that, Chris. So thank you very much in helping us promote that. We want to make sure that all the boats out there that are going rock fishing are aware that they need to have one on the boat. rigged up, ready to go, so that if they do happen to catch something that they can't keep, they can properly descend it without any mortalities on the fish.
Awesome, man. Well, Steve, thank you so much for being with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. Great partnership between CCA and Promar Ahi, and yeah, man, we'll hopefully we'll see you soon and get back on the water and hopefully go hooping.
Sounds good. I appreciate you guys having us. We appreciate it very much. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Chris.
Yep, awesome. Tony, another fantastic episode.
I know, this was so rad. I've never talked as in depth about lobster, I think, in my life before prior to today. I've always wanted to go. Like, I called everything a minefield, when you're coming out of the bay. But I tell you what, I look at each one of those traps, I'm like, man, I'd always want to do that.
Yeah,
always wanted to do it.
We never even talked about my favorite part of a lobster, eating it.
Ooh.
Consuming it. Yeah. But next time.
Good recipes.
We'll have a wrap up report by April.
Yeah, for sure. Well, guys, that is going to do it for this edition of the CCA California podcast. Make sure to go follow us on Instagram at CCA California. Go subscribe to us on YouTube as well, and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And we will see you guys next week. Take care.